We are Mariyam and Lokesh from Dry Master Go on City 1016, and we are extending our on-air conversations to off-air conversation. And here at a podcast, we'll be discussing something really new and exciting around Generation Z.
Absolutely. So you were reading a very interesting article about Gen Zs in their workplace.
Right.
What do you think about them?
So the article said that corporates around the world, they're not very happy and excited about hiring Generation Z because there are a lot of problems with Gen Z.
You know, I was talking to a couple of my friends and they said that, when we hire Gen Zs, they don't care about the work. The urgency is not there. So I get that. So I read an article on Forbes where they were speaking about Gen Zs at workplaces as well. And what they spoke about is how every generation eventually anyway had issues. For example, boomers, okay? Now boomers they were cynical. They're just cynical. Millennials were job skippers. Even though we think Gen Zs are job skippers and they don't care and all, boomers were job skippers. Which is why every time on our CVs also, when we've made them, we try to at least put 2 years of experience in one company.
You're right.
Right?
Right.
To just show that, no, we're not job skippers. Gen Zs, think about what they've come up with, right? They've come up with artificial intelligence. They've come up with so many things that can help them. They don't have to use their mind as much as we had to. So I don't think they work differently. That's what I feel. They work differently. It's not about hard work, or they work smartly. That's what I think.
You know, it's very interesting that you're saying all these things. In fact, in the beginning, you said that they are not very productive at work or they don't care much.
Yeah, that's what my friends had said who've hired Gen Zs.
See, okay, first of all, I think this is going to come up a lot in our conversations about Gen Z is like this, or Gen X is like this, or millennials are like this. I think to kind of make such broad statements about any generation, I don't endorse that, because I think every generation has a set of hardworking people and every generation has like a set of people who are irresponsible. But largely speaking, yeah, it's true for Gen Z that, they don't really care and all that. And I sometimes wonder where that is coming from. I think Gen Z, largely speaking, and speaking strictly in the Indian context, I feel that they are born and raised in privilege. Let me expand on that. Like when I was growing up, we were all maximum population of the country. We were just about getting there to, we were a lower middle class family, and we were raising our classes from lower middle class to higher class, right? With the influx of BPOs, all these call center jobs, which were paying such handsome amounts to my generation, right? We made it big somehow. We started earning well. So we made sure that our kids, the millennials kids, which is Gen Z, they are well taken care of. They don't have any deprivation. They don't have to think twice about spending money and all that. So when you're brought up with privilege, when there's no fear of losing anything, you don't seem to care, and that kind of reflects at workplace also.
Absolutely. Is that why you think that they don't care whether their job is gone? Like they really don't care? Because I feel like Gen Zs, if they really put their mind into something and they really like it, they'll go all out.
Absolutely.
Right? They will care about their job. But what I love about Gen Z is, like you said correctly, they have come from privilege. So they know that our bosses and our companies cannot take advantage of us. I think we, as millennials, have kind of thought that if we've been hired by a company, and that's what even companies do to their employees, if they hire us, that means we need to really we owe them something.
We feel obliged to
whether we're working for them, 10 hours a day, that they won't see, but we are paying you.
Right, right.
So no problem. Gen Zs don't care about that.
And we feel obliged that they are doing us a favor by giving us a job.
Oh my God, thank you so much for giving us my money for what I'm working. Gen Zs, on the other hand, love an equal work-life balance. They will leave when they have to leave, and they will not care if it's urgent or not. I don't know if that's good or bad.
No, it's true. So I feel being born in privilege is just one aspect of it. I think there are different aspects. First of all, the way they communicate. I think Gen Z is very digitally fluent.
Yes.
So all the things that we would think as millennials that we are working hard, we are putting in 4 hours of work and all that, they will use AI, they will use ChatGPT, and they will turn around the same amount of work within like a few hours, maybe a couple of them, or a few minutes for that matter. Because they're kind of digitally fluent and they're smart, But at the same time, I feel there is, of course, the lack of fear of consequence because they are born in privilege and they have the generation wealth.
Yep.
Like I have so many of my friends who tell that even if their kids don't work for the next 20, 30 years, they are well taken care of. They have done enough savings for their kids and all that. So they don't have the fear of consequence, or they don't have the fear of that they're going to be on the streets, and they don't have to like really look after them. So that's one. Secondly, I believe it's also what you're looking at the workplace. When we started working, when my generation started working, your generation, I mean, you're millennial and Gen Z.
Yeah.
But let's say 20, 30 years when I started working, I think my sole purpose was to like kind of pull myself out of the middle class and, you know, shoot to the higher
Yeah.
class, right? So money was important. Self-growth was very important,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think Gen Z, their focus is more on values, what they stand for. They believe in a lot of inclusivity. They believe in a lot of, you know, mental health, as you were talking about, right? So for them, if those boxes are not being ticked, money and growth is not
Yes.
much of a box to tick. But if these boxes are not being ticked, you know,
Values and mental health.
values and mental health and what they stand for, inclusivity, you know, lack of racism and all that, that's what they're going for. And if that's a clash with the earlier generation of their bosses who have a different worldview altogether, then they don't care, and then they want to just like move on in life and, you know.
So I read this article on Forbes, right? And in that, Deloitte has come out and said, in their group, in their team, 2 out of 5 are Gen Zs, okay? And they have actually said no to a project because it did not align with their values. And in the same article, Forbes also speaks about how companies, 65% of the companies would like to fire Gen Zs more than millennials or any other generations because they are too emotional and get offended too easily. That is what the employers are saying. Like, if you tell them something that this is not the way it's done, okay, fine, I don't want to do it. It's basically just that.
I mean, that's a
generalized, generalized thing. But
also, that's a perspective of an employer who would want their employees to work all the time and round the clock.
But this is 65% of the employers.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. I mean, that's the perspective of an employer.
Yes.
But if you see it from the Gen Z's point of view, I am kind of happy that they're talking about mental health.
Yeah.
That they're talking, that they think it is pretty normal if I'm having a bad mental health day that I can call in sick. I don't necessarily have to be dying or dying with certain amount of physical pain and all that.
Yeah.
I think those conversations are also important. Whether it can be abused and misused, yes. I mean, of course, we misused, you know, we reported sick to work when we were just going out.
Listen, when we're actually sick, we come to work, okay? When we're not sick is when we say,
correct,
listen, we're sick, we're not.
But I'm saying at the same time, our generation, we had also reported sick saying that I'm having stomachache or fever or whatever, but we were going out with our girlfriends and boyfriends, right? But mental health conversations, because Gen Z is so aware of it, you know, and the previous generation who are their bosses, the millennials who are their bosses, they kind of compare it with their time saying, we worked in such, you know, extreme conditions, why can't you work?
Yes.
I think that expectation of Gen Z is not fair.
Yes,
because,
it's not fair.
Yeah, every generation comes up with their own set of, you know, mental health situations, and you should be more accepting of that, I feel.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. I do feel like when employers, especially when I was reading the article, that's what I sensed, is they were not talking about proper mental health, because companies now have people helping with mental health. There is a department, HR actually focuses on that.
Right.
So that's great. It's about the misusing, where the reason why they've, in quotes, said they get offended too quickly is because the smallest things where you want to learn, like let's say you have to teach me something, I can't get offended when you tell me, listen, this is not the right way to do it. I can't get offended. But they're talking about stuff like that. The minute things that will help you become better is something that they don't want to know, because they think they know a lot more than their, you know, managers, which could be true in terms of technology.
Exactly.
It's true.
Yeah.
AI, if I want to learn, I will learn from someone who's younger, who knows the technology a lot more.
See, like I said, you know, I don't know if it is fair to make such sweeping statements for the entire generation that
It's
all,
it's not. It's you
know,
it's
all
like
Gen Z
a
are getting
major-
offended, or all Gen Z are
Of
like,
course not.
But yeah, they could be, like you said, we need to have more nuanced conversations around it, because sometimes as millennials, as bosses, as people in authority, we think that we know better, But
Yeah.
but there are so many times when Gen Z would know better and would know a smarter way of doing it, turning it around instead of resorting to the old traditional ways of doing a particular
Yes.
job.
So, companies are now scared that Gen Zs will leave. And that's something I really like. Because we are scared that the company will fire us. That's how we've grown up, right? Like,
Right.
oh my God, this is your job. If the company fires you, it's a bad thing. Gen Zs I don't, from what I think, they don't think like that.
Yeah,
They're like,
so-
okay, if it's not good, we'll leave. I'm not saying that it has to be for the smallest reason, but they are not scared of jumping.
That's exactly what I was talking about, right? So our purpose was to make money to be able to look after ourselves. Gen Z has the privilege, like I said, that
But I love that.
There are so many of my friends who say that they have enough money to take care of their kids for the next 20 years. So that's not one of their concerns. So if their values are not being met, or if their expectations at work are not being met, they are not scared, and they're like, we are going to leave you, if you don't value us. So
No,
which is
I
a great
love
thing.
that.
Yeah.
I love that the companies are scared that, oh
Yeah.
no, we're going to miss out on this.
Yeah.
And in that article, they're talking about how millennials and Gen Zs can actually work better, because millennials do have issues with the way Gen Zs think. Gen Zs might have an issue with the way millennials are managing things.
Right.
Right? So the only way is to kind of talk to the Gen Zs as to how they work, see what their biggest point is. So their biggest point is technology. Millennials are great with managing. Okay, like you were saying that Gen Zs don't sometimes want to take the post of managers, and you'll come to that later, but to sit and see what could work. We're not expecting everybody to do everything. But millennials have to cater to Gen Zs, because now in 2025, they're taking up to 30% of the workspace. So we have to kind of go
Keep
with
up.
the flow, and we have to
Yeah.
keep up with Gen Zs, because
Yeah.
they are the future
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
every way.
Okay, let's now wrap it up and focus on the solutions. What are the, let's say, top 3 solutions you give for both millennial and Gen Z to kind of work together?
Talk it out and be okay with not knowing, both millennials and Gen Zs. Be okay with, okay, I don't understand this, I'm going to ask a Gen Z. Gen Z being okay with, I have a problem with this, I'm not going to get offended, I'm going to ask what it is. So I feel like every relationship, right?
Yes,
Just talk it
communication.
out. Communication, I think that works.
For me, I think, and I can speak from the millennial point of view. I think, and this I've seen is, again, not to make a generalized statement, but I see a lot of people, we think that we know it all. I think the other day somebody asked me, you have evolved with times, because I've been doing radio for last 30 years, and he's like, you have evolved with time. And I was thinking about it. I was like, I don't ever get up every morning thinking that, hey, today, Lokesh, I'm going to evolve with time.
Yeah.
Right?
Gradually.
So how do you evolve with time? And the only answer that I thought was, I mean, at least I try to, that I don't look down on Gen Zs. I genuinely feel that there's a lot to learn
Yes.
from that generation. When you're working with them, their enthusiasm is infectious. Their ways of working is smarter. They are, like I said, digitally more fluent, So the moment you do not sit in judgment saying they are dumb people and they don't do
Yes,
anything, they
yes.
don't know anything, I think that's when you evolve with time. So I think it is very important, it's pretty imperative for the millennial generation to not look down on Gen Z and think that just because their ways are different and just because their
Yes.
way they think is different from you doesn't mean it's wrong.
Yeah.
You can always see something good in them as well.
We
and
can be
evolve.
at work for 10 hours and go and our bosses might think, wah, kya kaam kar rahe hain?"
Right.
Right? We might not be doing anything.
Yeah.
Gen Zs could be at work for 2 hours and do so much work
Be
that we
productive,
couldn't do.
yeah, exactly.
So they're very efficient, and we need to be okay with that, and they
yeah.
need to be okay with our ways, because we've grown up like that,
yeah.
and kind of adapt to each other. I think that's the right way.
I think that's pretty much that's a good conversation to have. That's pretty much a wrap now. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm sure a lot will come out. I think we're going to have part 2, figuring how this goes.
That
but
totally
it was
depends on how
wonderful.
well you communicate your thoughts to us. So please comment below and let us know what your thoughts are. And let's take this conversation on air as well, because we keep having these discussions on Dry Master Gogo every day between 5 and 8 p.m. on City 1016.
City 1016.